Something you may not have noticed is that the roles that you play in your personal relationship, the way that your father wound has been affecting your personal relationships, is also how your father wound is affecting your work relationships. Welcome to Therapy Explained, where we explain, demystify, and destigmatize mental health and mental health treatment. My name is Deniss. I'm a licensed therapist, mental health educator, and speaker, and your host here at Therapy Explained. Today we're going to be talking about how your father wound may be affecting your performance at work. A few months ago, we did cover this topic on how your mother wound may be affecting your performance at work, and I thought this topic is also pretty important. But before we dive into today's video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and give this video a thumbs up if you find it useful at any point. And if you want more content or are looking to stay in touch, be sure to check out the links in the description. As a therapist, I have seen just how much our parental wounds, our mother wound or father wound, can affect our sense of worth, our lovability, our self-esteem, and our view of the world. And something else that I've noticed along the way is just how much the father wound actually shows up at work. The roles that you play in your personal relationship, the way that your father wound has been affecting your personal relationships, is also how your father wound is affecting your work relationships. So the way that you relate not just to your coworkers, but even upper management, and the way that you see yourself at work, just how much work then plays a role in your life and your self-esteem and sense of self. So at first, let's talk a little bit more about the father wound. So the father wound is an emotional wound connected to your relationship with your father, particularly during your childhood. And this can also include relationships with parental figures, whether it's a grandparent, an uncle, or other father figures in your life. If your father or a significant parental figure was neglectful, abusive, emotionally absent, it affected your sense of self, your worth, that shapes what you expect of people. And I do have a whole video about how your father affects your mental health, so be sure to check that out for more specific examples. These lessons about the world and about yourself will shape the role that you take in all of your relationships, including work. So let's talk about how your father wound may be showing up at work. The more obvious examples can be how you're relating to men at work, but also men in power at work. This may also include just people in general, because again, the father wound is shaping how you see yourself and how you see the world, how you relate to others. But yes, more specifically, men. If you had a hard time standing up to your father, communicating with your father, it is very likely that you're going to have a hard time standing up for yourself with men at work, whether it's just your coworkers or people with more power than you at work. This may result in you feeling burnt out, experiencing imposter syndrome, taking on way too much work, having that trouble with saying no, burning yourself out, maybe even taking care of others. And this may then also increase your level of anxiety and your need to seek approval from male power figures at work. So now we've reviewed what the father wound is and what it can look like at work, how it may be being triggered. So now let's talk about how we can address that. The main difference between the father wound and the mother wound at work is that we're operating in a patriarchal society, which means that not only is your father wound informing the role that you're playing with your coworkers at work or anyone at work. Now we're also going to be talking about gender expectations and what it is like to be a woman in a male-dominated world. So that's an important piece of your mental health that we have to take into account when we're talking about creating those coping skills and addressing the things that are coming up for you. So keep that in mind as we continue this conversation. Pay special attention to those moments in which you feel overwhelmed by emotion, whether that is feeling extremely burnt out, not motivated, sad, angry, frustrated. Those big feelings can be a good clue that that is your father wound being triggered. Just in general, recognizing when you're feeling overwhelmed, maybe even wanting to quit, that may be a sign that your father wound is being triggered. From there, if you just recognize, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling very uncomfortable here at work or with this interaction, the next question is, okay, what is the emotion that I'm experiencing? So if you're not able to kind of go straight into the feeling, identify the overwhelming first, then try to identify the feeling. And then with that, ask yourself, what narrative am I taking from this? What message am I taking from this behavior or this situation? Perhaps even what are my fears about this situation, right? Maybe it's the outcome or what might happen. Once we have that piece of the message that we're receiving or the fears that we are experiencing, that is going to clue us into what your inner child is actually feeling. So now we've gotten to the root of the father wound, right? Whether it is I am not good enough, I'm going to be, fired, which means like I'm going to be rejected. It may mean, this place doesn't ever make me feel good enough, or if I'm not good at my job, does that mean I'm good at anything? Like all of these messages that you're getting are going to be connected to your childhood experiences. So once we have that, we want to be able to process that and take care of that, right? If it's the abandonment, if it's the rejection, how can we take care of yourself? So this is where all of our coping tools will come in for us. So developing healthy communication skills is key here. Once we know, okay, this is what I'm afraid of or this is what I'm feeling, we want to communicate that to the other person. Of course, we're talking about the workplace. So how vulnerable you are and the words that you're choosing will be important. We don't necessarily have to put all of ourselves out when we're communicating at work about what is going on for us. We don't have to say, I'm experiencing rejection and that's really difficult for me, unless that's something that you want to do. You don't have to address it that way, right? So experimenting with, okay, how do I want to communicate this? What is it that I need in this space to feel safe again, in this workplace to feel safe again? What are my boundaries here? And learning how to communicate that will help address what's going on instead of just feeling overwhelmed. And using those communication skills will help you feel a little bit more grounded. But that discomfort that you're first going to feel will still be there, right? Even if we're able to identify what is the feeling, how can I communicate, that emotional dysregulation will still be present. So it's important for us to take care of it. And again, coping tools come in, right? So how do you take care of that feeling? It's important for you to have already developed some of that, or even start learning or start developing them for yourself. So deep breathing, yoga, walking, journaling, right? Like what is it that is going to help your body feel more grounded so that you can do the problem solving, so that you can do the brainstorming of how am I going to communicate my boundary? How am I going to communicate my needs now? And of course, those coping tools will also come in handy because expressing your boundaries and having that communication with the people around you at work might also be dysregulating. That might also be anxiety inducing. So that's also when your coping tools can come in and help you manage that moment. The work of inner child healing will help all areas, not just the workplace stuff, but also your personal. But today I thought it was important for us to talk about the workplace because I think it's an often overlooked piece and actually sometimes even a more helpful piece because at work there's a lot less risk interpersonally, right? Sometimes we're like, I don't really care if I get along with this person. So it might be safer to practice those communication skills, to practice those boundaries, because if this person ultimately doesn't like you, it might be okay versus maybe trying to work on your relationship with your mom or your dad or your siblings or your partner. Those might feel a little bit higher risk, right? And more difficult to start to address. So workplace, just as important, right? And you're experiencing similar things, so it can be really helpful to practice them here where it feels less risky, oftentimes less risky. Well, with that, I hope that this video added to your day, that it was helpful for you in some way. If it was, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for more conversations just like this one. If you want to stay in the know and stay in touch, be sure to subscribe to the newsletter. The link is down below. But if you want to show more support to the channel, consider becoming a channel member or a paid Patreon member. Both of these will give you access to the videos 1 week in advance, and it generally just helps me create these videos. Additionally, you can also get free weekly content from me on today's topic through the free version of Patreon. So you don't have to pay for it. You can just join as a free member and still get access to all those goodies, just not the videos ahead of time. And then of course, as things continue to develop and grow, I might be able to add more goodies to the paid versions of both the channel membership and the Patreon membership. So it might be a good thing to get in early so that you can help me figure out and brainstorm what more you would want from me. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video. Before we go, let's take a deep breath in together. and out. Until next time, be gentle with yourself.